The colony of Nereid 7 was quiet that night. The pale blue light of the planet's twin moons spilled across the low domes and metal walkways, painting everything in shades of silver. Most of the humans on the colony were asleep, their lives following the rhythm of machines and schedules, their breaths steady under the faint hum of artificial gravity and life support systems. Dr. Elias Terran, however, did not sleep. He lay on his cot, staring at the ceiling of his small module, his mind buzzing with equations, star charts, and the peculiar report he had received earlier that day. There were anomalies in the nearby asteroid belt, tiny, fast-moving objects that did not follow natural orbital paths. Sensors had picked them up, and though the Colony Council called it nothing unusual, Elias could not shake the feeling that something was watching, waiting. A soft, urgent tapping at his door broke his thoughts. At first he thought he imagined it, the product of too many nights staring at screens and charts. But the tapping persisted, growing in urgency. "Elias," a familiar voice whispered through the door, almost afraid to make a sound. "Wake up!" He blinked, sitting up. It was Lyra, his neighbor. She rarely knocked. She rarely disturbed anyone. Something in her tone made him swing the door open without a second thought. Her eyes were wide, shimmering under the moonlight. Her hand, pressed to the frame of the door, trembled slightly. She whispered again, "Don't let me return alone." Elias frowned. "Lyra? What happened?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced toward the colony's outer corridors, her gaze flicking nervously toward the shadows that pooled in the corners of the lighted walkways. I need you," she said finally. "Something is out there. Something alive. Something not human. I thought I could handle it, but—" Her voice faltered. Elias grabbed a jacket and slipped on his boots. "Then we go together. Show me where." Lyra nodded, relief softening the fear in her features. Together, they stepped out into the quiet corridors. The usual hum of the colony's systems felt strangely loud, echoing in the stillness of the night. Overhead, the moons hung low and serene, but their beauty did nothing to calm the tension building in Elias's chest. They walked toward the outer edge of the colony, where the metal walkways led to the observation platforms and the launch bays. The further they went, the quieter the colony felt. Every door they passed seemed like a barrier between them and the sleeping inhabitants, and every shadow seemed to stretch just a little too far. Lyra led him to a maintenance lift that descended slowly toward the surface. Below, the asteroid belt glimmered faintly, each rock catching stray light from Nereid 7's artificial sun. But among the countless gray stones, Elias noticed some objects that shimmered differently, like liquid silver moving through solid rock. They moved too fast, too purposefully, and they didn't reflect the light naturally. "They're watching us," Lyra whispered, clutching his arm. "They don't want to be alone with us, but I don't understand them." Elias squinted at the objects. Heart hammering. His training told him they were sensors, or drones, maybe probes sent from one of the unknown civilizations rumored to exist in the sector. But these did not feel like ordinary drones. There was intelligence in their movement, a careful, deliberate purpose, and they seemed to be waiting for something. "Calm yourself," Elias said softly, though his own voice betrayed some of the tension he felt. "We'll figure it out, together." They moved toward the closest asteroid, using a small shuttle that rarely left the colony. Lyra had her access codes ready, her fingers flying over the controls with practiced precision. Elias couldn't help but admire her focus. Despite the fear in her eyes, she handled the craft as if born for it. "Do you think they're dangerous?" Elias asked, glancing at the glinting, fast-moving rocks. "I don't know," she admitted. They didn't attack me. Not exactly, but they were watching, Testing me. I don't want to be alone if they decide to test us together. Elias nodded. The logic was simple. The aliens, or whatever they were, might not have intended harm yet, but they were intelligent, and intelligence could be dangerous if misunderstood. And humanity had one advantage that no other species seemed to have: adaptability. As the shuttle approached the asteroid belt, the strange silver objects moved closer, forming patterns in the void. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. It was as if the objects were aware of them, circling, observing. He tried to communicate, sending out simple signals from the shuttle's interface, but the objects didn't respond in any way he recognized. Lyra reached for his hand, a silent reminder that they were not alone together. "We need to keep calm," she whispered. "We need to show them us." Elias considered that. "Show them humanity," he said, almost to himself. And in that simple thought, a spark of excitement lit him from within. Humanity had faced countless challenges, from distant stars to the inhospitable surface of their own colony. And yet, every time, they had found a way to overcome them, to adapt, to survive. The first silver object drifted closer to the shuttle, hovering as if studying them. Elias leaned forward, heart pounding. He activated the shuttle's external scanners, trying to gather data without provoking it. The readings were strange, not harmful, not energetic in any obvious way, but unmistakably organized. "They're alive," Lyra murmured, awe creeping into her fear. "Not alive like us, but conscious." Elias nodded. "We've never encountered anything like this before." He realized then that they were not just scientists on a colony. They were explorers stepping into the unknown. And that unknown was bigger than fear, bigger than uncertainty. It was the chance to show what humans could do, to demonstrate courage and intelligence when faced with the impossible. The shuttle hovered near a larger asteroid, the surface jagged and pocked with craters. The silver objects began to circle it, moving in a precise pattern that reminded Elias of a dance, or perhaps a puzzle. He understood instinctively that this was a test, one designed to measure something about them. And if humans wanted to survive in the stars, they had to pass. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked, her hand tightening over his. Elias looked at the shimmering objects, at the silent stars beyond, and nodded. "Ready?" Together, they maneuvered the shuttle toward the asteroid. The silver objects parted smoothly, almost respectfully, allowing the humans access. Elias's mind raced with possibilities. These entities could destroy them, they could ignore them, or, most intriguing of all, they could teach them something. The shuttle touched down lightly, its magnetic clamps holding it steady against the jagged surface. Elias and Lyra climbed out, feeling the thin pull of Nereid 7's gravity and the eerie calm of the asteroid belt. Around them, the silver objects hovered in a perfect circle, watching, waiting, as if expecting the humans to take the first step. "This is it," Elias whispered. "The moment we show what humans are made of." Lyra smiled, a mixture of fear and excitement in her eyes. "Then let's not let them down." The windless void of space stretched infinitely around them, dotted with glimmering stars and distant moons. And in the middle of the night, two humans stood together, facing the unknown, unarmed, unafraid, and unshakably determined to prove that even at the edge of the galaxy, humanity's courage, curiosity, and spirit would shine brighter than any alien mystery. And somewhere in the silent pattern of silver watchers, the first ripple of understanding passed, subtle but undeniable. The night was far from over, but one thing was certain. Humanity had arrived. The asteroid's surface was uneven and jagged, catching the pale light of Nereid 7's twin moons. Every step Elias and Lyra took echoed faintly through their suit's communication system, a reminder of how still and vast the void around them was. The silver objects, hovering, silent, alive, watched from every angle. Their presence was both unnerving and mesmerizing, like millions of tiny stars moving with intent. Elias crouched beside a cluster of jagged rocks, adjusting the scanner he carried. The device hummed softly, reading electromagnetic signals and energy patterns in the asteroid belt. He had never seen anything like this. The objects weren't just drones. They had a pulse, a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "Look at this," he whispered, pointing to the scanner. "Their energy is organized. It's patterned, deliberate. They're intelligent." Lyra leaned closer, shielding the device from a sudden gust of vacuum pressure that the asteroid's uneven surface seemed to create. "But what do they want from us?" she asked. "Why did they let us land?" Elias shook his head. "I don't know. But intelligence has rules. They're testing us, observing us, and I think they might be looking for more than just survival. They're looking for understanding." Lyra's brow furrowed. "Understanding? Of us?" "Exactly," Elias replied. "Of humans." He paused, looking out at the infinite stretch of space around them. "Somewhere out there, these objects exist because something, or someone, wants to see if we can adapt, think, and cooperate. And if we want to survive among the stars, we need to prove ourselves." A sudden shimmer passed across one of the larger silver objects. Elias froze, realizing that the movement was deliberate. It was not random. The object hovered closer, its surface rippling as if it was alive. A faint hum vibrated through the air, felt rather than heard, and Elias instinctively placed his hand over Lyra's. "They're communicating," Lyra breathed. "Not with words, but with feeling, maybe." Elias considered this. Humans had always relied on touch, sight, sound, and logic to understand one another. But this was something different. These entities did not speak, but their presence conveyed thought. And humanity had always excelled at finding patterns, solving puzzles, and connecting with others. Perhaps this was their way of testing it. Carefully, Elias extended a small, flat device from his belt. It emitted soft pulses of light in rhythmic patterns. "If they are communicating," he said, "maybe they will respond to something simple, something deliberate." The nearest silver object twitched, then shimmered brighter. The pulsing lights Elias sent out seemed to resonate with it. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's working. They understand the pattern." Elias nodded, excitement and caution mingling. "We have to be careful. One wrong signal could, I don't know, but if we get this right, we might learn something incredible." The asteroid beneath their feet rumbled slightly, a reminder that they were not entirely safe. The silver objects shifted in response, forming a circle around them. It was a barrier and a path all at once. Lyra stepped closer to Elias, whispering, "It's guiding us. Guiding us." "Yes," she said, "like it wants us to follow it, not alone. Together." Elias realized she was right. The objects weren't aggressive. They were testing teamwork, trust, and careful observation. Humanity's greatest strengths were being called into action. Not weapons or brute force, but cleverness, cooperation, and courage. They followed the pattern, hopping from rock to rock, the silver entities leading the way. As they moved deeper into the asteroid cluster, the light from the moons dimmed, and the vast darkness of space surrounded them on all sides. The hum of the objects became more pronounced, almost musical, vibrating in their suits and through the shuttle's communications. Suddenly, they reached a small cavern hidden behind a cluster of jagged asteroids. The entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for the shuttle's drone arms to scan through, but the silver objects hovered patiently, waiting for them to approach. Lyra glanced at Elias. "It wants us to enter." Elias took a deep breath. The darkness of the cavern was intimidating. but he knew hesitation would only confuse the silver entities. "Then we go," he said, "together." Inside, the cavern was larger than it appeared from the outside. Crystalline formations jutted from the walls, reflecting faint lights in patterns that reminded Elias of data streams on his tablet. The silver objects floated through the air, weaving between the crystals, their lights pulsing rhythmically. Elias realized that the cavern itself was a kind of natural interface, a place where intelligence, matter, and energy intersected. This is incredible," he whispered. "It's like a library, or a laboratory, but not ours. Something else built it." Lyra nodded, eyes wide with awe. "Do you think it's dangerous?" "Not if we continue to respect it," Elias said. "Danger comes when we misunderstand or ignore the rules. But so far, we've followed the path it's set. That counts for something." The deeper they ventured, the more the cavern seemed to respond. The crystals began to hum, vibrating gently in sync with the silver objects. A faint light shone from within the walls, illuminating symbols that were unfamiliar, yet strangely harmonious. Elias ran his hand over one, feeling a faint warmth. "This is knowledge," he said, "some kind of archive or record. It's teaching us, but in a way that requires patience and observation." Lyra smiled. "So we're students." "Exactly," Elias said, a sense of wonder in his voice. "And maybe the first humans to learn from something not human. Not in words, but in understanding." They continued through the cavern, careful not to touch the objects or disrupt the patterns. As they moved, Elias noticed the silver entities occasionally shift slightly, forming new arrangements. It was as if they were demonstrating, showing how the humans should interact, how to read the environment, and how to respect its rules. Hours seemed to pass, though time in the asteroid belt was hard to measure. The cavern opened into a wide chamber, the center dominated by a larger silver structure, almost like a tower, shimmering and pulsing with light. The smaller silver entities circled it, guiding Elias and Lyra closer. "It's huge," Lyra whispered. "Do you think this is the core?" "I don't know," Elias admitted, "but it feels alive, not in a biological way, but in a thinking way. It's aware of us, observing us, testing us." They approached the structure cautiously. The pulsing light seemed to respond to their movements, adjusting intensity and pattern. Elias extended the scanner again, trying to interpret the energy flow. The readings were astonishing, not destructive, not chaotic, but coordinated, intentional, almost like the structure was alive and interacting with them directly. Suddenly, one of the smaller silver entities floated closer to Lyra, its light pulsing in a slow rhythm. Lyra reached out her hand instinctively, and for a brief moment, the light enveloped her, warm and reassuring. She gasped, then smiled. "It's friendly. It trusts us." Elias felt a surge of relief and pride. Humanity had never been the strongest species, but they had always been curious, adaptable, and brave. And here they were, standing on the edge of the unknown, proving that courage and intelligence could open doors even in the most alien of places. The larger silver tower pulsed brighter, and a series of symbols appeared in the air, shimmering like holograms. Elias and Lyra studied them, realizing they were a form of communication, a puzzle, a lesson, and a guide all in one. They were not alone. They were part of something bigger, a chain of understanding that stretched across space. "This is just the beginning," Elias said softly. "If we learn from this, if we understand it, humanity will never be the same. Not in the galaxy, not anywhere." Lyra nodded. "Then we have to be careful but also brave. We can't waste this chance." They spent the rest of the night exploring the chamber, following the guidance of the silver entities. Every discovery was a small victory, a lesson in intelligence, observation, and patience. By the time the first light of Nereid Seven's artificial sun filtered through the cavern's entrance, Elias and Lyra had learned more about cooperation, trust, and human ingenuity than they could have imagined. As they returned to the shuttle, the silver entities hovered around them, forming a protective pattern. It was a gesture of approval, recognition of their careful, deliberate efforts. Elias realized that this night, this journey, was a turning point. Humans had shown that they could face the unknown, not with violence or recklessness, but with thought, curiosity, and courage. And somewhere deep in the asteroid belt, the silver tower pulsed once more, a signal to others who might come after them. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy not as conquerors, but as explorers, learners, and thinkers. For Elias and Lyra, the night was far from over. The stars above were endless, the universe vast, and the lessons of the silver entities just beginning. But one thing was certain. Humans had taken their first step on a path that could lead to greatness beyond imagining. The asteroid belt seemed different in the daylight, though the sunlight of Nereid Seven's artificial system was faint and cold. Elias and Lyra returned to the colony shuttle, the hum of its engines filling the quiet void around them. Inside, the scanner still flickered with energy readings from the silver entities. But now, the puzzle felt deeper. It wasn't just about observation. It was about connection, understanding, and action. Elias stared at the readings. "They're not just testing us," he said, voice low. "They're waiting for something, a response. Something only we can give." Lyra rubbed her temples. "A response? What kind of response? We don't even know their language." "No," Elias admitted. "But we know patterns. We know logic. We know cooperation. That's what they want." They returned to the colony and called a private meeting with the Science Council. Dr. Kale, the head of research, listened with furrowed brows, while other members exchanged cautious glances. "What are you suggesting, Elias?" Kyle asked. "That the silver entities, whatever they are testing human intelligence, teamwork, and adaptability. They're not hostile. They're looking for interaction. And if we want to learn from them, we need to respond, not with weapons, but with logic, creativity, and unity." A pause. Then Kale sighed. "You've always been the imaginative one, Elias. But this is beyond imagination. How do we even begin?" Elias glanced at Lyra. She stepped forward, voice firm. "We follow what we learned. We cooperate. We act together. They are not just a puzzle. They are a lesson," the council murmured among themselves. Finally, Kyle nodded slowly. "Very well. You and Lyra lead a small team. We'll provide resources, but be careful. Anything out there is unknown." Elias and Lyra spent the next hours preparing. They gathered drones, portable scanners, and small tools designed for delicate interactions. Their team included a few other scientists and engineers, each chosen for intelligence, creativity, and calmness under pressure. The shuttle lifted off, leaving the quiet colony behind. As they entered the asteroid belt, the silver objects reappeared, gliding silently in formation. They guided the humans to the cavern where the large silver tower waited. "You feel it too, right?" Lyra whispered. "Like it's alive?" Elias nodded. "Yes, but more than that, it's aware of our intentions. If we move carefully, think clearly, and cooperate, we can communicate without words." The group stepped onto the jagged surface again, moving carefully toward the tower. The smaller silver entities swirled around them, as if observing, teaching, and encouraging simultaneously. Elias led them to the center, facing the tower. The symbols from before appeared in the air, glowing faintly. They were patterns, complex and beautiful, and Elias realized they were a kind of puzzle, a test of logic, observation, and coordination. "This is bigger than anything we've faced," one of the scientists, Mara, said. "I've never seen a system like this. It's alive." "Yes," Elias said softly, "and it's waiting for us to prove we can think together. That's what humans do best." The first challenge was simple in appearance, but complex in execution. Symbols floated in the air, shifting constantly. The humans realized that arranging them in a correct sequence caused the tower to pulse brighter, as if acknowledging progress. But one wrong move, and the lights dimmed, the patterns twisting and shifting again. Elias stepped forward, organizing the group. "We need to communicate clearly. Each of us observes, each of us acts. Together." For hours they worked. They studied the symbols, tested patterns, and corrected mistakes. The silver entities responded to their coordination, brightening in approval, guiding subtly when the humans faltered. At one point, the tower pulsed with a sudden burst of light, nearly blinding them. A small tremor passed through the asteroid, causing rocks to shift slightly under their feet. But Elias kept his voice calm. "Focus. We move carefully. Together." Lyra guided the team with quiet confidence, pointing out patterns and suggesting logical sequences. Elias used the scanners to interpret energy flows, adjusting their movements to align with the tower's responses. Slowly, methodically, they made progress. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time in the asteroid belt felt different. The patterns became more complex, involving sequences, rhythm, and coordination between multiple people at once. It was a test of not just intelligence, but trust and teamwork. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime compressed into one night, the tower pulsed once, then split its light into a wide spectrum, illuminating the cavern in dazzling colors. The symbols aligned perfectly, forming a complex map of energy flows and structures in the surrounding asteroid belt. "It's done," Mara whispered, awe in her voice. "We solved it." Elias exhaled, realizing that the silver entities were reacting not just to the correct sequence, but to the way the humans worked together. They had observed patience, communication, and cooperation, qualities that defined humanity. The tower pulsed again, this time projecting a pathway through the asteroid belt. It was a network of light, almost like a map, leading to something beyond their previous exploration. The silver objects swirled, forming a protective corridor as if inviting them to follow. "They're showing us a path," Lyra said. "Something they want us to reach." "Yes," Elias agreed, "and they trust us enough to follow it." The team moved cautiously, guided by the tower and the silver entities. As they traveled deeper into the belt, they encountered smaller obstacles, rocks that required precise maneuvering, energy currents that shifted unpredictably, and gaps that demanded careful calculation. Each challenge tested their coordination and ingenuity. At one point, Elias noticed a pattern in the silver objects themselves. They shifted subtly when the humans hesitated or made errors, almost nudging them in the right direction. The realization struck him. The entities were not just teaching, they were guiding. Humanity had passed the first test, but the greater challenge was ahead. "This is incredible," Mara said. "It's like they're alive, not just in energy, but in understanding. They know we're learning." "Yes," Elias said, "and that's what makes this HFY humanity. We adapt, we learn, we cooperate, and they recognize that." The path led them to a massive asteroid, larger than any they had seen. It shimmered with faint energy, and at its center, a small chamber opened, a doorway that seemed almost organic, as if grown by some intelligence. "This is it," Lyra whispered. "The center." Elias stepped forward, scanning the chamber. The walls were lined with crystalline structures, pulsing softly with light. The silver entities hovered around them, forming a protective barrier. It was a sanctuary and a test all in one. Inside, the light from the tower coalesced into a shape, almost humanoid in form, but clearly not human. It radiated energy, warmth, and intelligence. The humans felt a strange connection, as if thoughts and intentions could be shared without words. "It's communicating," Elias said. "Not in our language, but in understanding. It's inviting us." The team stepped closer, each feeling the presence of something far greater than themselves. The energy pulsed in rhythm with their own heartbeats, a connection that went beyond fear or doubt. The silver entities swirled around the central figure, acknowledging the human's patience, cooperation, and courage. Elias realized that this was the true turning point. The first tests had been preparation. This was the moment that would determine humanity's place in the wider galaxy, not as conquerors, but as learners, collaborators, and explorers. The central figure pulsed once more, projecting images of distant star systems, unknown worlds, and complex patterns of energy. It was a gift, knowledge, guidance, and opportunity. And it was offered because humans had shown qualities the entity respected: patience, intelligence, and above all, unity. Lyra reached for Elias's hand. "We did it," she whispered. "We really did it." "Yes," Elias said, feeling a swell of pride and wonder. "But this is just the beginning. We've passed the first stage, but the journey ahead, it's enormous, and humanity has to rise to it." As they exited the chamber, the silver entities surrounded them, forming a protective escort back through the asteroid belt. The humans realized that the journey had changed them. Fear was replaced by curiosity, doubt by confidence, and above all, they understood the truth of what they represented: a species capable of rising to challenges, learning from the unknown, and connecting across unimaginable distances. For Elias and Lyra, the night had brought a profound realization. Humanity was not just surviving in the galaxy. Humanity was ready to explore, to learn, and to prove that even in the vast unknown, courage, intelligence, and cooperation could shine brighter than any star. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly before them, filled with mysteries yet to uncover. But now, humans had the first key, and the silver entities had given them not just guidance, but a chance to step into a larger universe, one where their ingenuity, patience, and unity would define the future. Elias looked at Lyra. "We've learned a lot tonight, but I think the real journey is only just beginning." She smiled, eyes reflecting the shimmering light of the silver entities. "Then let's keep going. Together." And somewhere deep in the asteroid belt, the silver tower pulsed again, faint but steady, a signal that humanity had passed the turning point and that the galaxy was ready to witness their next step. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly around them, but Elias and Lyra now felt a confidence they had never known before. They had passed the initial tests of the silver entities. They had learned the patterns, the rhythms, and the unspoken language of the mysterious tower. Now, the real challenge awaited, a task that required not just observation and understanding, but decisive action. Back on the shuttle, Elias reviewed the data collected from the central chamber. The silver entities had revealed a map of energy pathways connecting the asteroid belt to other regions of the galaxy. The pathways shimmered faintly on the scanner, showing areas of stable travel, zones of dangerous turbulence, and points where knowledge or resources could be found. "This is more than a test," Elias said, his voice steady. "This is an invitation. They want us to take the next step, to explore and prove ourselves capable." Lyra nodded. "And it won't be easy. The pathways aren't safe. There are obstacles, challenges. But we've learned to think, to cooperate, and to adapt. We can do this." Their team was ready. Each member had studied the previous lessons, memorized patterns, and understood the importance of communication and trust. The shuttle lifted off, guided by the silver entities, which formed a protective escort as they moved deeper into the mapped path. The first obstacle appeared as a field of fast-moving asteroids, spinning unpredictably. Sensors showed energy spikes along certain paths, suggesting hazards or tests. Elias guided the shuttle carefully, calculating trajectories and sharing instructions with the team. "Left side, adjust by 2 degrees, he instructed. Lyra responded quickly, moving the controls with precision. "Correcting, now." The shuttle weaved through the field, narrowly avoiding collisions. The silver entities adjusted their formation, guiding them subtly. Every maneuver required trust, communication, and quick thinking. Once through the field, they encountered a second challenge, a region of gravitational turbulence. The energy readings were chaotic, shifting unexpectedly. The shuttle rocked violently as the engines compensated for sudden pulls and pushes. Elias realized that this challenge was not just about calculation. It required human intuition, a sense of timing, anticipation, and adaptability. "We move as one," he said. "Listen to the shuttle, to the patterns, and to each other." Lyra monitored the energy readings, her fingers flying across the controls. "I see a rhythm!" she shouted. "The turbulence isn't random. Follow it!" The team synchronized their movements with the subtle pulses in the energy field, adapting in real time. The shuttle responded beautifully, gliding through the turbulence as if guided by unseen hands. The silver entities pulsed around them, a clear sign of approval. Hours passed as they navigated one obstacle after another. Energy fields, asteroid clusters, and zones of unstable gravity. Each challenge tested their coordination, ingenuity, and courage. And each time they succeeded, not because of technology alone, but because they had learned to work together. Finally, they reached the destination marked by the silver entities, a massive structure suspended in the void. Unlike the tower in the asteroid cavern, this was larger, more complex, and clearly built by intelligence far beyond human understanding. Its surface shimmered with energy, pulsing in colors humans had no names for. "This is it," Elias whispered. "The final challenge." The shuttle approached carefully, the team alert for any unexpected changes. As they drew closer, the structure responded to their presence, shifting its light patterns to create an open pathway. It was an invitation and a test at the same time. Elias led the team onto the structure's surface. It was solid, yet seemed alive, reacting to their movements and intentions. The silver entities hovered nearby, guiding them toward a central chamber. Inside, the walls pulsed with light, and intricate patterns formed in the air, hovering like symbols in 3 dimensions. The team quickly realized that this was a puzzle far more complex than any they had faced before. It required simultaneous action, perfect coordination, and logical thinking under pressure. Elias divided the team into pairs, each responsible for a section of the puzzle. Lyra worked with Mara, while Elias paired with Dr. Jonar, the engineer. They communicated constantly, adjusting their movements, testing combinations, and interpreting the reactions of the structure. Minutes felt like hours. Every small success was met with a brighter pulse, a vibration that reverberated through the floor, and a subtle shift in the silver entity's formation. Every mistake caused the light to dim slightly, a gentle reminder to correct their approach. "This is incredible," Mara said, her voice full of wonder. "It's teaching us, guiding us, but we still have to act. It's not doing the work for us." "Exactly," Elias said. "It's testing our initiative, our ability to think and work together. That's what makes us human, and that's why it's showing this to us." The final sequence required every member to act simultaneously. Symbols shifted rapidly, energy flows changed unpredictably, and timing became critical. Elias called out instructions, Lyra monitored the pattern, and the team responded with precision. With one final adjustment, the puzzle completed. The chamber exploded with light, brighter than anything they had seen. The silver entities pulsed in unison, forming intricate formations that conveyed a sense of triumph and recognition. The structure itself seemed to acknowledge the human's success, projecting a new map, far larger, more detailed, and more complex than before. This is a reward, Lyra said, eyes wide. They're giving us knowledge, paths to explore, and maybe even a guide to the galaxy. Elias felt a surge of pride. Not a reward for ourselves, but for humanity. They recognize what we can do when we work together, when we adapt, learn, and act with courage. The team spent hours exploring the structure, gathering data, and understanding the new information. The silver entities hovered around them, protective and patient. It was clear that their journey had only just begun, but they had proven themselves capable of taking bold steps, thinking clearly under pressure, and cooperating as one. As the shuttle prepared to leave the structure, Elias looked back. The silver entities pulsed brightly, almost as if saying goodbye, or perhaps encouragement. They had opened a path, shown a challenge, and now it was humanity's turn to continue the journey. "This is bigger than I imagined," Mara said quietly. "We're not just exploring. We're stepping into something incredible." "Yes," Elias agreed. "And it's proof. Humanity isn't just surviving in the galaxy. We're capable of more than we ever believed. We can explore, learn, and connect with the unknown in ways no one else can." The shuttle lifted off, leaving the structure behind. Outside, the asteroid belt stretched endlessly, but now it felt like a network of opportunity rather than a maze of danger. The silver entities guided them back toward the mapped pathways, ensuring safe travel and providing subtle guidance for their next exploration. Elias and Lyra stood side by side in the shuttle's cockpit, watching the patterns of light and energy. "We've done something remarkable," Lyra said. "Yes," Elias replied. "We've taken the first big step, and I think the galaxy is about to see just how far humanity can go." As they returned to the colony, the team was quiet, reflecting on what they had accomplished. Fear had been replaced by confidence, doubt by clarity, and uncertainty by understanding. The challenges of the silver entities had tested them, pushed them, and shaped them into a team capable of remarkable achievements. And for Elias and Lyra, the biggest realization was simple but profound. Humanity's strength was not in technology or power, but in their intelligence, courage, and ability to work together. That was what had earned the recognition of the silver entities. That was what would carry them forward into the unexplored reaches of space. The stars above shone brightly, countless points of light stretching into the unknown. Somewhere out there, civilizations waited, mysteries unfolded, and challenges awaited. And humanity, guided by their ingenuity and unity, was ready. Elias looked at Lyra. "The next steps will be harder, more complex, but we've proven that we can rise to the challenge." Lyra smiled, the soft glow of the shuttle illuminating her features. "Then we keep going, together, and show them what humans can do." And deep within the asteroid belt, the silver entities pulsed once more, their rhythm steady, a signal that humanity had not only passed the challenge, but had begun to carve a place for themselves among the stars. The colony of Nereid 7 glimmered faintly under the twin moons, silent but alive with the hum of activity. Elias and Lyra returned to the familiar corridors, their minds buzzing with everything they had learned. The silver entities had guided them, challenged them, and now the humans carried knowledge that could change their understanding of the galaxy. Back at the colony's central hub, the council waited. Their expressions were a mix of curiosity, awe, and disbelief. "You've returned," Dr. Kale said quietly, his eyes scanning the data streaming from the shuttle's scanners. "And you've brought something extraordinary." Elias nodded. "More than extraordinary. We've been given access to information, paths, and systems that no human has ever seen before. But it's not just knowledge. It's a test, and we've passed." Lyra stepped forward, holding her tablet with the compiled results. The silver entities were not hostile. They weren't a threat. They wanted to see if humans could cooperate, think, and act with intelligence and courage. They guided us through challenges designed to measure our ability to adapt, communicate, and solve complex problems. The council was silent for a moment, processing her words. Then Kale spoke. "And you did it?" Elias smiled. "Together? Every challenge required coordination, observation, and trust. The silver entities recognized that. Humanity's strength isn't weapons or raw power. It's ingenuity, teamwork, and the ability to rise to the unknown. And that's what they rewarded." The colony erupted in a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. Scientists, engineers, and explorers gathered to witness the data streaming in from the shuttle. Holographic projections showed energy pathways through the asteroid belt, connections to other star systems, and structures far beyond human construction. "This is a map to the galaxy," Mara, one of the scientists, said quietly. "We can explore worlds we've never dreamed of reaching." "Yes," Elias said, "and the silver entities have shown us how to approach them. Carefully, thoughtfully, with cooperation. They've given humanity a chance to explore responsibly." The council discussed plans for expansion, exploration, and learning. Every suggestion involved humanity's strengths, teamwork, creativity, and curiosity. The silver entities had not only provided a map, but a philosophy that understanding, patience, and cooperation could open doors that force and fear never could. Elias and Lyra returned to their quarters that night, exhausted but exhilarated. They looked out at the twin moons, now familiar friends rather than distant lights. "We've done something incredible," Lyra said softly. "Yes," Elias replied. "And it's only the beginning. The galaxy is vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but we've proven that humans can rise to meet them." The next weeks were a flurry of activity. The colony prepared new missions along the pathways mapped by the silver entities. Teams of scientists, engineers, and explorers trained together, learning to anticipate challenges, solve complex problems, and communicate clearly under pressure. Elias was asked to lead one of the first exploratory missions, and Lyra joined him. They spent hours reviewing data from the Silver Tower, discussing strategies and coordinating with teams across the colony. The excitement was palpable, a shared energy of hope and determination. When the shuttle finally lifted off, escorted by smaller drones and the faint guidance of the silver entities, Elias looked back at the colony. It seemed smaller, yet more significant than ever. Humanity had faced the unknown and been recognized for their intelligence and courage. The journey through the asteroid belt was smoother now, thanks to their understanding of the patterns. The energy pathways glimmered faintly, responding to the humans' careful movements. Each obstacle that had once been a challenge now became an opportunity to demonstrate ingenuity and cooperation. As they reached the edge of the mapped path, a new sight awaited them, a cluster of asteroids surrounding a small planet, glowing faintly with energy fields similar to those they had encountered before. The silver entities moved in a welcoming formation, guiding them closer. "This is remarkable," Lyra whispered. "Another world, another opportunity to learn." "Yes," Elias agreed, "and humanity will rise to it, just as we always have." The shuttle landed on the planet's surface. The terrain was unlike anything they had seen. Crystalline formations, shimmering energy fields, and an eerie calm that suggested intelligence in the very land itself. The silver entities floated nearby, observing, encouraging, and protecting. Elias stepped onto the ground first, feeling the faint energy of the planet beneath his boots. Lyra followed, and the teams spread out, scanning, exploring, and recording every detail. "This is alive," Mara said softly. "Not like an organism, but conscious." "Yes," Elias said, "and it's waiting to see what we will do next, how we will interact, how we will cooperate, how we will learn." Hours passed as they explored, making careful observations and documenting patterns. The silver entities guided them subtly, forming formations that highlighted safe paths and areas of interest. Every interaction required thought, patience, and understanding. By the end of the first day, the humans had not only mapped the planet's surface, but had begun to understand its energy flows and rhythms. The silver entities pulsed in recognition, responding to their careful, deliberate actions. Elias realized that humanity's journey was no longer just about survival or exploration. It was about connection, understanding, and demonstrating what it meant to be intelligent, compassionate, and adaptable. That night, as the twin moons of Nereid 7 shone faintly above the distant horizon, Elias and Lyra stood together, looking at the shimmering energy of the planet. "We've done something remarkable," Lyra said. "Yes," Elias replied. "We've proven that humans can rise to challenges, adapt to the unknown, and cooperate to achieve what others might think impossible. And the universe is watching." The silver entities pulsed softly around them, a quiet recognition of humanity's efforts. They had been guides, teachers, and observers, but the humans themselves had made the choices, solved the puzzles, and demonstrated the qualities that set them apart. Over the following weeks, more expeditions were launched. Humanity's reputation spread quietly through the galaxy, as far as any transmission could reach. The silver entities remained nearby, not as rulers or guards, but as partners, observing and guiding. Other civilizations, once hidden and distant, began to take notice. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and ability to work together were recognized as something extraordinary. Elias and Lyra returned to Nereid 7, their hearts full of pride and purpose. The colony was no longer just a settlement on the edge of the galaxy. It was a symbol of human potential, ingenuity, and the ability to rise to the unknown. "This is what makes us human," Elias said, looking out at the stars. "Not strength, not speed, not power, but curiosity, courage, and the willingness to work together to overcome challenges we don't fully understand." Lyra nodded. "And now, we can show the universe that humans are ready to explore, to learn, and to leave a legacy among the stars." The colony celebrated their return, honoring the bravery and ingenuity of Elias, Lyra, and the entire expedition team. Holographic projections showed maps of the asteroid belt, the Silver Tower, and the newly discovered planet, along with data that would guide future explorations. The humans had not just survived the tests, they had passed them, earning recognition from an intelligence far beyond their own. In the months that followed, humanity's influence grew quietly but steadily. New colonies were established along the mapped pathways. Expeditions ventured further into the galaxy, and contact with other intelligent civilizations became possible. The lessons from the silver entities, cooperation, observation, and ingenuity shaped the way humans interacted with the universe. Elias and Lyra often reflected on their journey. They had faced the unknown, solved impossible puzzles, and demonstrated the very best of humanity. The whispered plea that began it all, "Don't let me return alone," had become a symbol of trust, teamwork, and courage. It was a reminder that even in the darkest, most uncertain corners of the galaxy, humans could rise to meet challenges together. And somewhere in the vast expanse of the galaxy, the silver entities pulsed softly, a steady rhythm that acknowledged humanity's place among the stars. They had tested, guided, and now recognized the species that had proven itself through intelligence, curiosity, and courage. Elias looked out at the stars one last time that night, thinking of the journey ahead. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Yes," Lyra agreed, "but we've already shown the universe what humans can do, and that's a legacy that will last forever." The twin moons of Nereid 7 reflected softly on the colony, on the shuttle, and on the paths yet to be traveled. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as learners, thinkers, and explorers, ready to meet the galaxy with courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable spirit. And the universe, vast and infinite, seemed to pulse in response, welcoming humanity to its endless mysteries.